Oh, what a tempered clap.
Oh, well, you know.
Pretty good. Oh, I gotta open my LaCroix. What am I doing?
Pamplemousse.
Pamplemousse.
Don't you want me? Okay. Am I in the fucking thing?
I think so. Am I in the thing?
I think we're both in the thing. I can only see
Yeah,
my
you're
side.
in the thing. Oh, I can only see my side. It's perfect.
It's perfect.
We're not looking at each
Those are
other's
the
paper.
only ones that matter.
Yeah.
Mine. Okay, so welcome to another episode of
Call him Father.
Oh, wow. We're really getting synced up.
Yeah. Only took 10 episodes.
Well, we've done... Oh, yeah. I guess I'm... Anyway. Oh, fuck. This is going to be a bad one already.
Listen, it's not going to be worse than the last one.
Yeah, that's true. Hey,
The last one's a new low.
that's a good thing about a bottom. You can
You're
only up.
Yeah, only up from there. And then you could go back down or remain down.
Yeah,
but I
you
feel
could
like...
even dig deeper, but I don't think that'll happen because...
No, we evaluated our problems.
We
came back and we are coming back stronger.
Oh yeah, it's going to be. This one's actually going to be a really good one, and I was just saying that to
Set expectations.
set expectations low so we can blow them out of the water.
Just knock your socks off.
It's a lovely Sunday. We went to church this morning.
That's right.
You know, it's interesting. We're reading the Old Testament, but all the church stuff is pretty much New Testament.
No, Ecclesiastes is New Testament. It was Old Testament.
Ecclesiastes is Old Testament?
OT, baby.
No, it's not. So anyway, what I was saying that was right, but I kind of just figured everything was New Testament because that's where Jesus is at. But I guess it's like, if you're Jewish, right?
Sure. Let me get in that headspace.
There are 5 books. Do you need like a hat? There's 5 books in the
Torah.
Torah that are also in the Old Testament, and then there's more books in the Old Testament that are not in the Torah.
Yes.
So do they look at New Testament as just like silly off branch, or
Fake
are they like
garbo.
respect?
Well, no, fake garbo.
So they
not that it's fake historically speaking, because they acknowledge the existence of Jesus and the sacrifice. They deny his divinity, and he was not the Messiah that was prophesied in the Old Testament.
But
That's
do they
what
see him
Jews
as a
say.
prophet the way Muslims do?
No. They see him as a total fake. They
And
see him
that's
as a
bad,
false
right?
Messiah. Oh, I mean, yeah, that's why they yacked him in the New Testament. That's why they killed him.
Well,
because they're like, this guy
Jews
says
kill
he's
him, or
God.
the Romans killed him.
Well, so Jews called for him to be killed. Technically, Romans put him to death via crucifixion, but at the behest of the Jews.
Okay.
So Jewish scriptures, the Hebrew Bible goes up to Malachi. And
such a sick name.
Is it Malachi or Micah? I think we've talked about this before. Why do I keep messing? Well, it's because they're similar names, Josh. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Hey, good for you.
Thank you. I can't find it, but it's Malachi. It's Malachi, and there could be other scriptures in addition to the Hebrew scripture. I wouldn't know that. I just know that the Hebrew scriptures go from Genesis up to Malachi, and that is what Jews hold to, in potential with other stuff. Talk to your local Jew. And
in some places there is only one.
Yeah, that's true. If anyone in Omaha is listening to this. Yeah, exactly. So that's what the Jews are into, and they're anti-NT.
Anti-NT. Okay. And that's kind of how Christians view like the Quran.
Sure, the Quran
generally broad sweep.
Yeah, probably as like not necessarily historically inaccurate, but the claims that it's making would be inaccurate. Sure. Because also the Quran says that Jesus wasn't God, that he was just another prophet, which we would disagree with. They see him as a prophet. Do Christians in general see Muhammad as a prophet? No.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's no prophets after Jesus.
It depends on how
saint?
it depends. Right. So it depends on how you define. I mean, this is like, it depends on how you define the word prophet. And like, there's a gift of the Spirit.
Cool ass dude.
Well, then come on. We got 2 prophets right here. Come on. Come on. What are we talking about?
Couch prophet.
The couch prophet. I proprophesy that
farting into tweed.
I prophesy that I will play Fortnite later. It is probably right.
If a prophet is judged by the accuracy of his prophesy,
low bar.
You are a prophet.
Low bar.
Low bar.
I prophesy I will do 2 mics this week.
Oh, wow. then
It's very
you
low.
better fucking make that come true.
Yeah, I know. I was a bad prophet last week. I only did one.
Really?
No, I did
Oh,
more.
God
Jeez.
damn. That's
No.
the most offensive thing you've ever said to me.
Yeah, no, sorry. No, I got up a good amount of times.
Nice.
But what was I saying?
So we're
Yeah,
just talking
prophets.
about-
Gift of the Spirit, which we haven't talked about at all. But this idea of a gift of the Spirit, prophecy is one of them. So it's like you have people who can prophesy into the future within Christendom. Within Christians will disagree on if prophets or prophecies still exist, right? Like I met a kid at this Christian camp one time who told me that when he was 7, he was prophesied that he would become president of the United States, right? At his church. Like it was prophesied over him that he'll become president one day.
Whoa.
I really should have written his name down. Just to hold on
like
to.
Ronald Gay Brump or something. It's not coming to me.
His name was Baron, but anyways,
Yeah.
no. So like, some people will buy into that. Some people are like, "Whoa, he was prophesied, very cool." And then other Christians, this is more my background, would be like, "Okay, yeah. Sure." Don't really
open-minded to the
gifts of the Spirit.
Gifts of
Yes,
the Spirit.
that's people who don't believe that the gifts of the Spirit continue are called cessationists because it has seceded to exist. Like they've stopped. The gifts of the Spirit have stopped existing.
You believe that?
I grew up believing that. I'm not a hardline cessationist, that's for sure.
But you've also never met anybody where you're like, he might have the gift of the Spirit.
Well, I think everyone has a gift of the Spirit to some extent. It's just like, do you have a gift of healing? Like, are you like healing crippled people? Like that can happen. I believe in that for sure.
Okay.
But like, or like the gift of tongues or the gift of interpreting tongues or the gift of, like there's a lot of different fruits of the gifts of the Spirit.
Okay.
And
Feels like
that's
we're getting into like Skyrim territory of like
well, that's what's
maximizing your spectrum of
Right,
gifts.
exactly. You've been focusing too much on alchemy.
I
Try
always
and get
focus
into
too much on the gift of boobs. when
Right,
I'm making
exactly.
Those characters. 100,
Wow.
100, 100.
They have 2 great gifts. So that's like, that's within Christendom. There's like a huge splinter between like certain denominations love that and are all about that.
Yeah.
Like Benny Hinn, who is kind of, a lot of people don't like it. A lot of Christians don't like him. He's a big like slain in the Spirit guy. He's like one of the guys who you'll see on YouTube just like take his coat and be like, wow. And then like a whole swath of crowd will just fall over
Yeah.
and they'll be like slain in the Spirit or whatever. It's like the Spirit moved and he like,
Sure.
overtook. So it's really, really
magical.
charismatic, Pentecostal stuff like that,
Yeah.
which I came from the opposite of that background. Like if you raised your hand in worship, I'd be like, okay, faker.
Right.
You're not feeling that.
Right.
And these other people are like, convulsing, in the Spirit. So
Yeah.
quite a spectrum within Christendom.
Definitely in the modern day, your version is an easier sell to like a secular person looking into it than like a Pentecostal talking tongues and
Sure.
fainting from the coat thing.
Well, that's
Not that it's about the sell, but it's like, I think one of those is really much easier to poo-poo.
What's kind of interesting is it's like the central claim of Christianity is so crazy to begin with. The fact that we claim that a man was God and rose from the dead, that's such a crazy claim that to say like what my more conservative view, which seems more approachable versus the Benny Hinn, like that like the difference really is not that big because the central claim that we both hold to is so insane that it's like, I understand what you're talking about, like the sticker shock sort of thing.
Yeah,
you like look at Pentecostal and you're like, ugh,
right.
Yeah, no,
100%. I guess I don't always keep that in mind when I'm like looking at this stuff. That like we've had these conversations before, but like I get lost in like the specifics and the rules, and then I often forget like the basic agreement of Jesus rising from the dead and is God.
Yeah,
is like still like the that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
the foundation.
Yeah,
and it's not as in the foreground of my mind as it is yours. So like,
sure, yeah,
I guess that's a good like response. Is like, yeah, but we all think this. So like, it's not as like the logical jump to like people can do coat magic. is a little less extreme with that perspective.
Sure. Like if you believe that it's like, yeah, then a lot more is possible. For sure.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's kind of interesting that some people will limit what the Spirit can do or what the Spirit does. But
I've heard that as a response to like, do you really think that he made a bunch of bread out of a little bit of bread? And do you really think he walked on water? It's like, well, I think he rose from the dead. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And I guess I'd never like, it's very easy to compartmentalize it without that thing.
Yeah.
It's like the whole religion is this guy was God and he was raised from the dead. So yeah, I think he could like also make fish.
Right, 100%. It's so funny that that's the hang up. People are like, okay, because there's so much historical evidence of him being raised from the dead. Not going to talk about it. But there just is if you want to look for it. That then people also were like, well then, but he couldn't do just basically what you're saying. It's just like, why would you think God could rise from the dead and then, but he's like, I don't know if I could walk on water. Like I don't know if I could turn this water to wine. But that's too hard.
There's obviously like sound logical consistency of like, well, I don't think any of it happens.
Completely. Yeah. I listen, I get it. I'm not like, that's retarded. Like, I totally understand. I get it, you know.
But it's like, I just think it's an interesting, like, it's a thing I never thought of. Like, yeah, if they buy this, they buy this.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's like saying,
if you don't buy this, then of course throw the other shit away.
Yeah, it's like someone saying, I can hold 100 eggs, and then they do. And then someone's like, but can you hold 5? And they're like, yes.
Yeah,
I could hold 100.
In fact, at one point I was.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Okay. Interesting little tangent. Let's rate. Let's rate.
Roast reference for
no one.
I mean, you'd be surprised. We have mostly non-comics following us on Instagram. So if we put this on Instagram, they might see that.
But they wouldn't get the roast thing.
That's why I said roast. Oh. That's why I referenced it for our non-comedian.
We're exposing them to so many new worlds.
Yeah, go check it out. It's really funny.
It's really like the worst side of comedy ever.
Yeah, kind of.
Please keep booking me to do it because it's the only way I get stage time.
Yeah, don't book me. I'll lose.
Yeah, well,
I'm terrible.
I'm losing too. Speaking of losing in spirituality.
Go ahead.
Whenever I lose a roast battle, I do think there is no God. But it's just how brittle.
But I was just so mean to them. Why did
I am feeling, I guess, last week I was more giving of my time to other people.
Nice.
I felt more spiritual. I felt more connected to things, and I felt like there was a higher purpose. Mm-hmm. This week I was more wrapped up in my own world and wrapped up in my anxieties about the future, so a little bit more cut off.
Okay.
Which was something I was thinking about today. And I guess it just comes back to this stuff is a practice.
Sure. Yeah.
So you have to keep practicing. So that is why I'm feeling like maybe a 5 spiritually and religious. I just want to keep reading the Bible. So I think
you want to.
I want to because it's
that's
like,
great.
I think there's like a way to read it where even like no matter where I'm at, where I'm like really trying. It's like anything. The more involved and the more intentional you get about it, and the more open-minded you can be about it, mm-hmm. the more it gives back to you.
Sure,
and like when
totally.
I think the last few weeks I was reading in a way where it was like I just got to get this done for the podcast.
Yeah.
Versus, and I had to like fit it into my schedule. Versus this week, because the last episode was so bad, I was like, okay, that has to be better. So I really tried to read a little bit deeper, and it was more interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
So I guess I'm like. I'm becoming more interested in this particular content, so I'll give myself a 4.
Nice.
Yeah.
4, pretty good.
Yeah.
So 5 and a 4. You're at a 9.
Yeah.
Pretty good. 9 out of 20. Not bad. Well, go ahead. Keep drinking. I'm being rude. I would probably put myself religious 8. Same thing.
No way.
Spiritual, I might put myself also like a 4 or 5. I felt very similar to you in terms of like it is a practice.
Yeah.
And this, depending on where I'm at emotionally, I'm like, yeah, this is, I need that. This is beautiful. But like, it was more of a practice this week, which I think is still good. And that's why I've got like I showed you this a little bit earlier. I guess maybe I didn't show you this, but this is like my daily devotional thing. And like it comes through, and then in the back, it's got like a daily reading to read the Bible in a year.
So read this part. Oh, it's got like a daily plan.
Yeah, like January 1 through 31, and then February all
it's
the way.
It's still in order. It just puts it into.
I mean,
you have to get these sections like into quotas.
Kind of. Yeah, it cuts it up pretty nicely. So it's like Genesis 1, Genesis 2.
Off like meaning. Like, oh, this connects to that. Okay.
Not necessarily, but I mean that's kind of interesting to say that because it's like there's so many cross references in Scripture. You could always cross reference like two things.
Yeah.
Like to say Genesis 1 and Matthew 1 aren't connected is kind of like, well, they are because it's the same. There's a lot of connection throughout all
different
Scripture,
passages have different like motifs and themes that other ones have. It sounds like from the notes inside the ESV.
Yes, that is true. That is absolutely true.
I don't actually know that because we are only 116 pages in.
Yeah, that's true. But in this, so like on February 8th, so which Frank, helpful, I told you this before, but my daily reading took me through the passage that we're going to talk about today. So, which is very convenient for me.
Sure.
But yeah, it was very like practice oriented. It was like, okay, just do this every day. And sometimes it feels very real. And then other times you're just like, man, I hope this is real.
Yeah.
It's really, I just was editing the pod and I said that in the, whatever episode that was that I was editing, was like, yeah, if this is not real, I'm looking like a big old dunce,
I still don't even think so. I mean, it's like,
well, thank you for saying that. That's nice. Cause I feel retarded sometimes, but
well, I guess I just like, I think there's always like merit to seeking and like
oh, sure.
Looking. I mean, I guess my suggestion would be like look at other places and not just one place. But
well, I think, yeah, I mean,
that's where we differ.
What you're looking for, right? Because for me, I'm such an extremist. I'm so like, it is this
Christian extremist.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, maybe I'll back that off. Maybe I'll wind that one
maybe
back
just
down.
Your
yeah, maybe I really believe it a lot.
And I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Listen, material is material. Who cares if it gets destroyed?
Right.
But I think I'm just like what the way I oscillate is like, this is it. This is real. Or then it's like, bang, nothing's real. It's all gone.
Yeah.
So that's like how I feel.
Yeah.
And so it's like either it's this God or there is no God.
Yeah.
And so then when I get into that place and then I think like I have ways of focusing and like kind of assuring myself that I'm not nuts.
Sure.
But like, yeah, there are moments when you're like, it just doesn't feel real. But ultimately, it's not about my feelings, Like if I never existed, these facts would still be occurring, I'm not some solipsist where I'm like, this is only true because of my experience of it. So
yeah, but I guess like your interaction is the feeling.
Interaction with
your life, your Lord, your material is like. Mm-hmm. Feeling is a big part of it.
Sure. I think, yeah, absolutely.
I get this idea of like, this has been much longer before me and will be for after. Mm-hmm. And so my involvement is not as important as my like self-centered intuition wants me to think it is. But I do think that like you are like a temporary interactor with it, so your experience on all levels, whether it's logical or emotional, is really important.
Sure. Yeah, I totally think that's right. Especially, I mean, and this might seem circular here, but like, because I believe we're made in God's image and we're made particularly, like we're not just like, God, like when we're born, God isn't like meeting us for the first time. Like, oh, I wonder who this guy, like we're created, like God created us intentionally. Like there is intention behind each person that exists. Uh-huh. And so I think like
each,
I know you want to say some people don't matter, Grant, but everyone matters.
Only just certain groups.
Okay, fine. I'll send to that. Okay, sure. Fine. Okay, fine.
Only non-chosen. I mean, that is we can get into that later, but that is a weird concept.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. That's the thing. You won't catch me saying that things are not weird. All right. Things are weird. All right, I'll say that.
That's why this podcast kind of works.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
All right.
So yeah, well, everyone's experience definitely matters because the Lord cares about our experience.
Sure.
And it's like, it is a balance of like intellect and experience. And as I've said before, I came from a heavy intellect and I'm trying to grow experience,
Yeah.
So that's just always a process.
Okay. Let's get to reading.
Nice.
That's how I'm marking the chapters on YouTube. So we begin with the claps, and then the burps are how we...
Oh, okay.
Oop, new chapter.
Short chapter.
It's such bad etiquette to do that into someone's ear hole.
Oh.
So I'm sorry.
I totally forgot. I didn't think about it. But I feel like the worst part about a burp, though, into someone's ear is feeling the air. And they're not going to feel that.
Everybody's got AirPods in. If you feel that's what sound is you're feeling.
No, but the air
percussion.
around your ear when someone burps in your ear,
breath?
It's like, and you're like, oh.
We'll work on that.
That's
with
way
augmented
worse.
reality.
Yeah, with AR. Watch this on your new Meta glasses and feel the hot air of Grant's burp, pamplemousse smelling burp.
They do smell good, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so last time as we left off, Joseph had been sold as a slave to the Midianites? Ishmaelites, and then sold and then he was bought by Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaoh in Egypt.
High-ranking fella.
But the next chapter is a quick intermission from Joseph's story to talk about Judah, his brother, who kind of tried to save him.
No, that's not. That's Reuben. Judah's
that's Reuben?
Yeah, Judah's just a different brother.
Wait, why is Judah significant? Is it just that eventually his descendants will be kings?
Well, Judah, yeah.
Or did he do something in the last story that was significant? I can't remember.
No, he didn't do anything.
He's just a part of the murder our brother crowd.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
He's in that group.
Okay, so this story kind of comes out of
Left field.
nowhere, but it will make sense later, I guess. But basically, Judah, he leaves his family and his brothers after they sell Joseph, and he goes a couple miles away, and he meets a lady. He marries her. He comes into her, and she bores him three sons. Yeah, maybe some girls, but they don't really make
talk about this.
Not worth the ink. Mm-hmm. And so he gets the firstborn. And remember, that's an important thing for some reason. The firstborn, he sets up with a wife. I guess he's evil, so God kills him.
The son kills the son.
Kills the son. No explanation of what it makes him evil.
It said, well, let's read it specifically. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death.
That's it. So,
boom, bang, done.
Bing, bang, done. Little efficiency. God is in efficient mode.
That's true.
He's been reading The Tools of Titans.
Atomic Habits.
Yeah. 1% better at being God every day.
Interesting. Dead.
So he kills him. And so his wife is just hanging around. So Judah goes, hey, how about if his brother has sex with you and then raises your children as if they were his brothers? It's called, what is it called? It's like Levirate marriage, or?
It's just that was kind of like
Levirate marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it's a custom back then where the younger brother would make and raise his widowed, man, this is really... Who could be a worse at podcasting than this
Why
guy?
do you think they're so good at being lawyers? It's because there's so much they can say all of this. Just bang. Bang.
Okay, so basically, if your brother dies, you'd fuck his wife, she'd become your wife, and you'd raise the children as if they were your own, but really technically they're his, kind of, in the eyes of God.
It would be seen as like the
or
brothers.
In the eyes of the law of the time. Not
yes, the law of the time is that's your brother's offspring because it came through the wife.
And so he's like, fuck that. I don't want to raise these kids and they're not even mine. So he does have sex with her, but he just starts blowing the load in the ground.
Yeah, he starts pulling out.
Yeah, so this is the first instance of pulling out, the pull-out method. Coitus interruptus.
It's called. That's what it's called?
Yeah, it's in the ESV notes.
Really?
Yeah. Coitus interruptus sounds like something that, like a cock blocking spell at Hogwarts.
Yeah, coitus interruptus. Also, interruptus sounds like what someone asks someone to do. Hey, could you interrupt us? That'd kind of be really hot.
Don't come in her. Oh, I won't.
Oh no! Blah.
So he blasts him on the ground, which is also wicked, and God kills him for that. So we're down to one brother, Shalua or something, Kalua, and.
I think it's some sort of mixed drink.
Yeah, some sort of white Russian ingredient.
Yeah, I think it was Shua.
Shua. And so Judah says, all right.
Shelah. Yeah.
So Judah says, all right, lady Tamar, you go wait for my last son to be of age, and then he'll do the levirate marriage with you. But go wait at your dad's house, because it seems like every time that I put my sons inside of you, they die.
Yeah, so he's worried about giving his youngest son to him, because two of his kids died. He's got one son left, and now he's like, this woman's a freaking Black Widow. Yeah. She's going to kill whoever my ex. So he's not super stoked about giving his youngest to this woman, Tamar.
But it is tradition that he would do that, so he's kind of being sneaky and just sending her away. And so then his wife dies.
Judah's wife dies.
So he's pretty sadsies.
Pretty upset.
But then one day he gets enough not sadness. He gets enough not sadness to go and check on some people in another land, a couple doors down. And Tamar hears about this, and she goes, oh, I'm going to go say hi to him. So she takes off her widow's robe, which I assume is just a robe with cigarette burns in it. And maybe a pee stain.
Right.
And she puts on a veil. And so when Judah walks by her, he thinks she's a prostitute. He asks to have sex with her. She's like, okay, he's like, I'll give you a goat. She's like, well, you don't have the goat on you, so why don't you give me your staff and signet and something else for now. He jizzes in her comes into her. And then she gets pregnant from that. It gets back to Judah that she is pregnant. He didn't think it was her he was fucking.
He didn't know it was her. It was all secret.
Because of the veil.
Yeah.
Right? And so he's like, we got to burn her. And then when she hears that he wants to burn her, he's like, oh yeah, remember these things you gave me? And he's like, oh fuck, that's my baby. Can't burn her. Because she is more righteous than him. So, and then it ends.
That's right.
And then you get back to Joseph.
What's the name of the child?
I don't know, dude. Probably like Latte.
Twins.
Oh yeah,
Twins,
that's sport. They're twins, and so one shoots its arm out while during the birth, and so the midwife ties a scarlet thread around the arm to mark the firstborn, which is so important. And then he kind of comes back out, and his brother comes out instead. So it's like a weird firstborn, not firstborn thing.
Contentious.
Yes,
yeah. And the names are Perez and Zerah.
Yeah, and Perez is Hebrew or whatever for breach, because I guess they really split that pussy wide open.
Bam! Punched right out that.
Yeah. And then I don't know what Zerah means, but they will be important later because David will come from them.
Yes.
How's that summary?
That was really good.
Yeah.
That was really detailed. Yeah. And I think also what's interesting is when Judah hears about the fact that his daughter-in-law pretended to be a prostitute so that she could get pregnant by him, he responds with, wow, she was more faithful than me.
Yeah.
Because he's I didn't do according to the custom. Like, she is owed a child.
Right.
You know? So and we didn't give her that, so she tricked me into doing what was right.
Yeah.
In a weird sense. And also because his wife was dead, it wasn't like he was committing adultery in that sense, I guess.
Sure,
I don't
so he's not wicked, but he's still having
prostitute.
Sex outside of marriage.
Yeah, not
but
ideal.
That's not established yet, really.
Yeah, the particular laws are not laid out.
Okay.
But there clearly is a custom where it's like she is owed a child from this line, and Judah doesn't want to give her that because he's worried about losing his own kid. So instead, she tricks him and he impregnates her.
Yeah, I did think that's another part of this that I'm trying to keep in the back of my mind is okay, laws of the time versus the laws that are developing under this, not new God, but new introduction to a God, whereas it's coming from all these multiple gods before, and people are shifting this way. So this marriage custom was an interesting. It made me think I'm so glad that's not still around, because man, if my sister dies, I really don't want to fuck my brother-in-law.
Yeah, you have to impregnate.
I'd have to.
You'd have to. You'd be like, I'm sorry,
you really have to try.
You're owed children. Keep coming in his butt. And it's just not.
There's nothing out. Yeah.
What the hell? But what's so interesting about this, and this is maybe more on the Christian side of things, but there's so much Christians wait on the Lord, he will provide, and she is waiting to be to be impregnated, and so many Christians are wait on the Lord's timing, she had some gumption. She like did something. You know what I mean? She wasn't just sitting there waiting. I mean, she was waiting for a long time, but then ultimately she got up and did something. And kind of like what we were talking about earlier, off mic, is like, yeah, isn't it crazy how when you do stuff happens?
Yeah.
Instead of just waiting around, it's like there is something to be said for taking action. You know what I mean? Not
it's
just
such
sitting
a
and waiting.
strange example of taking action of like.
Well, it's a crazy action to take.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna go pretend to be a prostitute. I'm gonna sleep with my father-in-law.
It says in the notes that it's not clear that was her original intention.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because it says something in here about how like there's no way of telling if that was her initial intention because he's the one that implied that she was a prostitute.
That's interesting. Yeah,
because like she could have just been going to be like, hey, where's your youngest son to come fuck me?
that's a good point.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
and then she just saw the opportunity and was like, all right,
dude, so smart. Also to be like, yo, give me your signet.
yeah. So
And to
I
be
can
like,
prove that
yeah.
you did
So
this.
when I get in trouble later, because I know I will, I'm gonna be like, yo, what's up?
Yeah.
So smart.
Yeah, that's
dude.
where there's like this like it's like another point of confusion about like this kind of paradoxical interaction between like God having a plan and people's free will and intervention.
Yeah, dude. Welcome to one of the biggest conversations and problems in Christianity. That's like a huge That's a huge.
Do you
puzzle.
think we can solve it in the next 30 minutes?
Damn right.
Yeah,
Come
let's
on.
intervene, baby.
Okay, we're down to 29 minutes. Let's
Okay, let's get serious.
Seriously, we gotta go.
Okay, so yeah, that was a little side route to set up stuff for later. But now we're back to Joseph.
Right. Yes.
Unless you want to talk more about that crazy story of Judah.
It is.
and
It is
Tamar.
pretty nuts. But like, we'll, in 3 years when we're talking about that, we'll remember this. And
Sure, when we're talking about David.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it goes. Now it's like, okay, flashback to Joseph. He's in Potiphar's house. He's crushing it. He's destroying it as lead slave.
He's doing really good as a slave.
/ servant. He's like he's like been put up in the high. He's like head slave.
He's
head
in the
servant.
house. Let's just say that.
He's a house slave. Let's put it that way. So I think he's destroying it right now, and then he's crushing it so hard that now Potiphar's wife sees him and is like, "This Hebrew looks nice.
He's handsome
He's handsome
and effective.
and effect. Oh, and effect. Yes, and I guess Potiphar, because he trusted him with so much, Potiphar was probably just like out and about doing whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just doing his job, just kind of whatever. So Potiphar's wife is like, yo, you want to hook up? You want to sleep, to Joseph? Yeah. You want to make out?
Yeah.
That's probably what she said. She's like, do you
Probably
want
was
to
like,
kiss
you
each other a lot?
fucking kiss me right now?
Kiss me on the mouth.
Yeah.
And Joseph was like, I can't betray my master like that. I'm doing great with everything right now.
Wow.
And I'm not gonna betray him like that. No. And she keeps like is persistent and is like, come on. And then he keeps saying, no, whatever. So then one day she like makes a move and like tries to grab him, and then he's like, "Wah!" And then he like
grabs his garment.
Yeah, grabs his garment. So who knows? Also, I don't know how many different pieces of clothing they're wearing. You know what I mean? Like it could
I
have been
assume
his
it's like one or two
singular garment.
Yeah, so she just like
Just strips the dude.
snatches his whole dress.
Yeah, exactly. Just come here.
Yeah.
It's like imagine just ripping someone's pants off, just being like, yeah.
Oh,
and then he's
imagine.
like, whoa. And then he runs away.
Yeah.
Potentially naked.
Yeah.
Just running out of the house, running away, gets away, but she holds on to the garment, and then she freaking twists the story and says, oh, Joseph tried to assault me, and then tells that to her husband. And then he's like, what the hell? You were my favorite guy. You were so good.
best slave.
You were such a good slave.
How could this slave betray me?
Oh, this doesn't make any sense. What did I ever do to you?
I
except
owned him.
enslave you and by treat you as property. And so then he gets thrown into the king's prison.
Sorry, but what was the slave revolt in?
We try not to remember that.
Oh, I know it's a dark spot in your history.
Sorry. Yeah.
But
oh, you mean when we lost?
Yeah, don't put me in this area. I'm Irish.
I'm Irish too.
Are you Irish?
Oh, German, Irish, Dutch, baby.
Oh wow,
right.
That's the holy trinity of white. But
Yeah.
what's this like the slave revolt? I can't remember what it's called, but there was like a big slave revolt in slave times.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes,
There's like a
yes.
famous one.
Yeah, because people are comparing October 7th to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, man, all these names are escaping me now.
But okay, but this is my point: is do you think any one of those like people like white people in the plantation when that slave revolt happening was like, how could they do this?
Of course they were. Of
really?
Course, yeah,
I guess
dude.
yeah, because to be able to do that to other people, you have to have that level of
100%. What if one time?
So
what
crazy.
if? What? Listen to this. What if all of a sudden? What if? Let's say you got a bunch of horses. You know, let's say you just have a bunch of horses, and then out of nowhere, the horses that have been working so well for you just start attacking your house,
branding and kicking with their stars.
And you're gonna
in
be
your
like,
heels.
"What are these horses doing?" And he's like, "Oh wait, they're not horses. They're people." That's
Yeah.
maybe why they're
But that's-
revolting.
it's
But that's
just-
how they saw them. It was like as animals.
Right, but even like, okay, but there's videos of horses like kicking like dogs that nip at their heels, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Them dogs.
So
Yeah,
even with
100%.
animals, I'm like,
Yeah, but then, but I think it's more just about like the organ. Like, what are you? We're giving you such a good life. Also, I think they probably lied to them about how terrible Africa was or whatever, and they're like, we're helping these people. This is thank
interesting.
goodness to them. You
I've
know
never
what I
heard
mean?
that before.
I haven't either. Just kind of made it up. But it feels like it makes. But it feels like it makes sense.
I guess it's a possibility.
It's a possibility. Listen, there's a wide is
I
the
just
world
thought
of
that
truth.
was a funny idea of like being like, what? Like, yeah.
They're revolting, but why?
You're lucky if your slave just fucks your wife.
Yeah, which I'm sure some slaves were used for that
Probably.
back then.
Definitely in
Got some cocky
the Franklin residence.
plantations.
But yeah, and so he runs away and then he gets put in prison, and that's
The king's prison,
the king's prison.
which is probably one of the worst types of prison.
Really?
Sure.
That's worse than like normal prison?
Yeah,
you
because
get
imagine,
offended.
like, let's say you tried to assassinate the king.
Sure.
Now you're in the king's prison. It's not like this nice, like, rich person's prison. It's not like
It sounds like it's kind of confusing marketing. Oh, I get to go to
is.
the king's prison.
yeah, like as if the king was in prison. No,
Previous-
it's
yeah.
as if you attacked the king.
Yeah.
like it's the people who did the worst thing possible. So it's one of the
Oh.
worst prisons you could be thrown into.
Okay, didn't think about that.
Yeah, not great. So he
Okay.
goes from this pretty, as far as slave goes,
Yeah.
pretty high position, a lot of control, a lot of power, enough so that the wife of this high-ranking dude is trying to get at you,
Yeah.
which is like, you must not be disgusting. You know what I
No,
mean?
it says he's hot.
Yeah, it says he's a good-looking dude. And
Now,
also,
Joseph was handsome in form and appearance, which is also similar to how his how Rebecca was described.
Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think also, I feel bad for Potiphar in this situation, right? He had this
You lose your best slave?
lose your best slave and your wife sucks and you
Yeah.
don't even know. Because
Don't even know.
Oh, what? You think this is the first time she's tried to cheat on him? There's never at the age
way.
that she is. I'm sure she's been cheating left and right. Not saying Potiphar's been a good guy either.
Yeah,
but
you don't know that.
I'm sure he wasn't. But just this idea of like, she tries to cheat on him and then she goes, he tried to do me, and then he just offs his best slave, and he has the sucky wife who's trying to cheat on him all the time.
Yeah.
God, it's
Consider Potiphar for once.
yeah.
So I guess some parts about this that are interesting. They point out the connection between like his clothes getting ripped off and being used for a lie. So like when they took his clothes
the cloak.
and covered it in blood. So, I guess it's like it's another like Easter egg link thing, but it does. I don't know how much it adds, like symbolically or otherwise. I don't know where that like theme or motif takes you, but
Well, being stripped of clothing, I think, is a big, like clothing is protection, clothing is whatever symbolism there might be there. Clothing as garment, like from his dad, the cloak of many colors, that was a sign of love and of like favor. And those things are stripped off of him.
Okay.
Also, I would imagine that his garment, probably as head slave or whatever,
Yeah.
probably is not the same garment that everyone else is wearing, right? So he gets stripped of that, stripped of everything that comes with that too.
Yeah.
And then also it's very symbolic and foreshadowing of Jesus when he was crucified. He was stripped of his clothing. Same thing. Like they just get whittled down to nothing. Like you are completely vulnerable. You're completely naked, So it's very symbolic of like one's safety and security. And when you're naked, you have none of that. And just as Jesus was. So I think it's, again, foreshadowing to that sort of idea, that sort of imagery.
Oh, okay. And then, I guess like there's this thing about he maintains his integrity by not having sex with the wife. And even though that gets him into a bad
Scrap.
earthly position of like being put in the fucking king's prison, he still has favor with God while he's in that situation too, because he maintained his integrity. Like he's not doing these wicked things like Judah's kids are and just getting zapped and dead immediately. He's maintaining it shows the importance of maintaining your own integrity, and that even though you might be put in bad situations via circumstance, you might actually prosper in those situations if you maintain your integrity.
100%. And I think a lot of this is, there's something where Joseph says, he mentions, okay. Well, Joseph this is talking about Potiphar. This is when Potiphar's wife is trying to woo him. This is Joseph's response to her. She goes, he, Potiphar, is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except yourself, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Right? So he doesn't even say against Potiphar. He says against God. Mm-hmm. He's like, this would be wrong in the eyes of God, implying like Potiphar too. But he appeals to a higher authority. He appeals to God, right? So that's like an integrity of like, I shouldn't because it'll get me in trouble. Like, no, it'd be wrong against God, right? It's not like she comes to him and then goes, hey, listen, I will F you up if you don't sleep with me. Right. He's like, well, it would still be a wickedness against God. You know what I mean? Regardless of like maintaining my station.
She could have tried that.
She could have tried it. Yeah,
maybe
she was smart. She would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like this idea of also just he's not greater than I. How crazy is that to say about your master? He's like, yeah, we're like the same,
sure,
basically, except for you. You know, which shows that Potiphar,
except for you,
which shows that Potiphar does value his wife. It's like not everything's yours,
right?
Know?
Yeah,
like yeah, she's still mine. You know, or values or is jealous of or whatever. You know.
Okay, so now we're in the prison.
That's right,
and. The prison is same kind of similar thing. He rises up in the prison. I mean, this guy's a hustler, Joseph. He becomes the prison warden's BFF.
Yeah,
and the prison warden kind of trusts him to look after everything and the daily comings and goings and awnings. That goes to Joseph
of the whole prison,
the king's prison, and so he gets mad cred. And he gets the keys, as they say. And while he is controlling the prison, two other people are put in prison, the cupbearer and the food bearer or bread bearer. Baker. Okay.
Bread bearer.
The people who are responsible for feeding and giving drink to the king, and I guess testing it for poison, are put in prison. And they both have dreams. And it's known that God has shown favor for Joseph. So people are like, hey, why don't you tell that dream to Joseph? Maybe he can interpret it. And so he does. And so for the cupbearer, he hears his dream, which is like, I guess there's some grapes growing on he's not very creative in his dreaming. It's still about his profession. But
these guys are obsessed with work.
Well, they're just so like whipped by the system.
Yeah, that's true.
They dream and work.
Yeah, I dreamt about making cold calls. I made 5 cold calls, and only 2 of them picked up. Yeah.
Thank God I never did auditing long enough to dream about auditing. I would have. Oh, it would have been the prophecy for that. I would have put a gun in my mouth.
What does this dream mean? It means you're gonna kill yourself.
It means your dreams are dead. It means you don't dream. So they're dreaming about work, and he's like, "There's 3 grapes." He squeezes them into the cup of the king, and I guess I don't know. The king drinks it, and Joseph goes, "Oh, that means that each grape is a day, and in 3 days you will your head will be brought up in front of the king, and he will." Bring you back to work. Yay.
Back to work.
Back to work.
Yes.
And then the baker sees that the dream interpretation by Joseph is favorable. So he goes, all right, maybe this guy will interpret my dream. A little bit different of a dream. Next chapter. A little bit different of a dream. He has 3 baskets of bread or whatever on his head. And on top, there's a bunch of crows or birds eating the bread. And Jacob goes, the 3 is a number, and it's days, and in 3 days the king will bring your head up and then kill you and hang you from a tree, and the birds will eat the skin off of your body. And he turns out he's right.
Yeah, he's right on both accounts.
He's right on both accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever go to one of those psychics on the side of the street, be careful.
You gotta watch out.
They might give you a bad reading.
A bad reading, 100%.
I wonder if, do you get second opinions on dream interpretations the way you do, like, if you're going to the doctor?
I guarantee you the baker was like, I'm going to run this past some other folks.
Else.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, you get like, you're going to die in 3 days, and you're like, oh, okay.
Well, I'm going to run it past. Yeah.
I appreciate your input.
Thanks for the heads up.
I'm going to go talk to some
Also, how
other
brutal.
people.
That must have been so tough for Joseph. Joseph's like, I think it's... Oh man, yeah, you're gonna die, and also not just you're gonna die, but the birds are gonna eat your foot. Like he's already dead at that point. You don't need to tell him that.
Yeah,
he's just gonna say, "Hey, you're gonna die. It's not gonna be pretty." He was like, "You're gonna be hanged, and birds are gonna eat your foot. Like you're gonna be disrespected in your death."
Do you care
Brutal.
what's done with your body when you die?
That's a great question.
Is there a thing with Christianity about that? Of like, you need to have one foot kept in a pickle jar and the other one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I'll be doing. But just no, I don't think so. I mean, it's like
You don't give a shit.
I mean, I'd like to be buried, but I don't
in
wanna,
like a casket.
Sure, I don't want to be cremated, but ultimately, it's
Why
like I'm dead.
stuff?
Who cares? Waste the stuff.
Just like wood and like.
That's so true.
Like just
takes up so much.
I was
space.
talking to someone about this earlier this week, but throw me in the lake and don't even like try to throw me. Like get one guy to give me a heave, and if I land in the muck on the edge,
just wait for the tide to take you out.
Fine. Let the kids come poke me with sticks.
Sure, yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care at all.
I kind of agree with you in that sense. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'd be like, well, it'd be kind of nice if you put me in the simplest box possible, and
But why not let the world eat you and make you into
it will
stuff?
eat me.
But it's so much longer versus just putting you in a hole.
Yo, dude. I mean, when we're talking about time, like, yeah, we got tons of time. It'll eat you across. I don't care.
Well, put me in steel.
See, that's stupid. That's dumb.
Put me in a time capsule.
No, yeah. Oh, a time capsule. That'd be kind of fun. Like cryo freeze your whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freeze my
good.
eggs.
Like Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care. Kind of do whatever.
I just didn't know if there was like, because like in India, I don't know if this applies to the Muslims in India, but like I think the Hindus it's burning.
Sure.
So you kind of go back into the atmosphere and keep churning in the world.
Yeah.
Versus like preserving a body like they do like
in Egypt?
Egypt. It seems like, hey man, that could have been, you could have been nutrients for crops.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like...
Feels like it's an interrupting of the circle of life.
Yeah, with Egypt, though, they're like, the people they mummified were like, this is like God. Yeah, this is not just like a dude. So, and also they believed in like reincarnation too. Like the pharaoh keeps reincarnating into the next, I think.
It's like the, what's the Tibetan thing? Dalai Lama?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Which, by the way, I read something where it was like, oh, there's going to be no more Dalai Lama.
What?
Something about like, oh, maybe the Dalai Lama was not born this generation because of like Tibet and Chinese.
That's like no more Marvel movies.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that'll happen. And I think one day we can only pray.
I've never agreed with you so much.
Dude, oh my gosh.
Just shut up.
These are the two things I care about.
Tony
No more
Stark.
Dalai Lama and no more Marvel.
Oh, you don't want more
both.
Dalai Lama?
I don't care. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
But I feel just this because of like a weird thing, like the Dalai Lama has to be born in Tibet, and because China claims Tibet as China, there are some Tibetans who are like, "Oh yeah, it just can't. The Dalai Lama can't exist anymore because it's not Tibet." It's something like that.
Because that's how badly they don't want the Chinese.
That's how geographically oriented they are.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Not to say orient in like a weird way.
Oriented. Oh, phew.
Man, we're dodging
bullets
here. Joseph had to give a bad interpretation to the guy. They're dead, but he was right, and he said to the cupbearer, Joseph did. He was like, "Yo, by the way, this is going to be good news. You're going to get out of here. You're going to get back to work. When you get back to work, please
put in a good word.
Please put in a good word. Please don't forget about me. Please.
Yeah, last line of that chapter, totally forgot about it.
Yeah, literally. What is the last chapter? Yeah, literally the last verse. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. It's like, damn, brutal. Not even like he tried to remember him and then he kind of forgot. He was just like, yes! And then he just forgot him. Also, what's interesting about this is What does he say? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Only remember, this is Joseph talking to the cupbearer when he's interpreting his dream. And he says, only remember me when it is well with you. And please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh. And so get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of Hebrews. And here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the pit. So first off, he's still saying, yo, I'm innocent. Mm-hmm. Also, he wants to just be let go.
Right.
He's like, because I'm from over there. Could I go over there, please?
Can I go back over there where they sold me?
Just let me go. I'm not asking for anything crazy.
Right.
Just if you could remember me and just kind of let me get out of here and just go home.
Remember me when you're
back in the house of Pharaoh.
Back in the house of Pharaoh, but there was another addition. There was like, well, you remember me in the house of...
No, it's right here.
What?
Remember me in the house of Pharaoh. Right.
For
I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews. And this is pre him.
When it is well with you.
When it is well with you. Yeah, because he's saying, hey, you're going to be restored to your job. So when it's well with you and you're back at this job.
But maybe he's also saying like, you've had a rough couple of days, get back, relax.
Get back in the swing of things.
Get back in the swing of things.
Yeah, you've had a little time off work.
I know sometimes when you take some time off and you come back in, it takes a little bit to get back into your rhythm.
Right, 100%. You don't want to be coming back with a request too fast.
And no rush. Please free me from this awful prison.
Yeah, exactly. Could I please get going?
Could I please go back to my family?
Also, it is kind of risky to say the cupbearer, right? Because the cupbearer, his job is to try stuff.
I didn't even...
You know what I mean?
Well,
he's like,
I mean, it's like, who else is he gonna say it to?
Well, he's got the cup.
Well,
I bet if Joseph had a choice, he would have rather the baker been survived.
But doesn't the baker do the same thing of testing food?
No, the baker makes the food. Baker makes food. Cupbearer tries food, right?
Oh.
So the cupbearer he tries it to make sure it's not poison. So the cupbearer is at a higher risk of death than the baker. So if I'm Joseph, I'm like, this isn't even the way I want it to go.
Sure.
I want the baker to be, because the cupbearer could die, right? So then he goes, please, when it's well with you, just please tell me that. And then he forgets him for 2 years. If I'm Joseph, I'm like, that cupbearer got poisoned.
He's so dead.
He's dead. Because who's people trying to kill Pharaoh probably all the time. And I'm like, damn it. He's dead.
Yeah.
That was my one shot. Like, God, you gave me the cupbearer who's going to get killed and I'm never going to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
2 years, he's probably thinking, this cupbearer's like, after a month, I'm like, he should be back in the swing of things.
Dude, he's like Andy Dufresne.
Oh my gosh, why do I know that name?
Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like that.
You didn't like that movie?
I saw the second half of it because I walked in my roommate watching it and I was like,
oh, you just saw the second half?
I mean, I know the whole movie, but like I walked.
You know that, like, you know the idea.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but you haven't experienced the full movie.
I watched the second half and I was like, this is cheesy as garbage. I hate this.
It's an old. I mean, yeah, I think it's like an older. For that time period, it was like it was an Oscar.
Listen, I don't like Stephen King. He did.
Oh,
I don't like Stephen King. I can't do him. I'm sorry. He's too cheesy.
Okay, that's fine. I don't really care about that.
Yeah, let's get back to the Bible.
Let's get back to the Bible.
Not Stephen King.
But I mean, this shit is. I will say, this is not cheesy.
Yeah, all right.
This is not cheesy. It's
pretty good.
It's nonsensical sometimes.
Doesn't make sense. It's
fucking
fake.
crazy.
No, it's awesome.
I'm not saying it's fake. I mean, it's just like, it's definitely not as. It's not very linear structures a lot of the time where I'm like following it the whole time.
We'll talk about linear structure, right? Like, I don't know how long he was. I don't know how long he worked for Potiphar. I don't know how long he was in jail for necessarily. Yeah. But they do just talk about Judah having 3 kids, the kids growing up, getting married, dying, all this. I'm like, how long was this gone? Yeah. How long were they gone for?
It's hard to track things. Things jump up in weird places. Every time there's a long list of names, it's just like, fuck this. But it's definitely it's not cheesy because there's not a lot of emotion written into it to where you could be like, that is a exaggerated or false emotion. That's why it's not cheesy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are you talking about? There's not a lot of emotion. I mean, Jacob rent his clothes. He's crying about Joseph.
Sure, but it's not detailed. Like, it's not like trying to recreate that emotion.
His eyes were glassy with tears.
Exactly. Yeah. It's,
yeah.
Hemingway must have loved the Bible because it's really, there's not a lot of adjectives.
Bang, bang. They were sad. They cried. They moved on. Ashes on head. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to get to 41 unless you can try to rip it quick.
Well, do you have more on 40? Because we could just try to kill the rest of this time on 40.
I guess like I don't know what else to get out of it. I think it's pretty straightforward. Of like, one, it shows Joseph is very connected with God. People respect it. He is a prophet in a way because he's able to read these dreams, and what he says comes true. He is patient and has faith that eventually things will work out in his favor.
One more thing I'll mention is he got destroyed, sold by his family, all this stuff, right? And he still identifies as a Hebrew.
Oh, okay.
So he still is accepts. Like, by the way, I'm those people over there.
Yeah.
I'm not this. Like he's not like, screw them. I hate them. I want to stay here. Whatever. He's like, no, I belong over there. Like he still identifies with that. He's not trying to escape it, even though they completely betrayed him.
Yeah, I guess one thing that like all of this makes me think of is like we kind of mentioned it at the beginning, but this idea of like chosen people, and not in the sense of like the Jewish people are the chosen people, but like chosen characters.
Okay.
There's no explicit reasons, I guess, for why they are chosen. Like why Joseph out of his other brothers. And I guess that's confusing sometimes, of like why that wouldn't be specified. Like, what's God looking for in a chosen? And they're chosen from birth. It seems like, so it's like he's making them, he's picking them to be chosen.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be nice to get a little reasoning behind that.
So, yeah, I mean, that's not a crazy thought to have. I mean, in Romans, Paul talks about like God saying, Jacob I loved, Esau I hated, when they were in the womb, before they were even born. He said, I love Jacob and Esau I hate.
Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly still blessed Esau and all of this stuff. So the term hate, I think, doesn't mean like, ugh, he's gross to me, but just this idea of like, I'm showing favor to Jacob.
Yeah, preference.
Yeah. And in terms of Joseph, I mean, also it's kind of weird when we talk about preference. It's like, I don't know if he I mean, I guess you could say he did, because he blessed them in certain ways, right? But like,
he's like the whole thing is like he's interacting with these people, and then like there's people in Egypt not interacting with.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, God's large, right? Like I think this is what the Bible is it focuses in on who humans are, our flaws, and God's path to redemption for all humanity, right? And his path went through the Jewish people to bring us Jesus, who ultimately is our redemption, right? That doesn't mean that Jesus Jesus and the Lord didn't interact with people outside of the Jews, right? It doesn't mean that God didn't reveal himself to other people. We don't have a record of that, right? So I think to say that God was silent to everyone else is not necessarily true, because we couldn't really claim that. We don't have evidence that he spoke. But in this idea of like preference and chosen and all of this stuff, there are a couple ways of looking at that, because you're talking about like, what does a person have to have? What do they have to do or whatever? It's like, well, now
he's making them. So like, what's he deciding that I'm going to make this, and these aspects of this person that I've made I really like, and these aspects of this person I made that I don't like? That's confusing.
Sure. I think the question is, did he make some? I mean, this is just such a large conversation.
That's why I saved it for the last 5 minutes.
Good. That's a good point. With like determinism and predestination and all of this stuff, right? Because it's like, God made us, Adam and Eve. God made us perfectly, and then we sinned, right? So did he make the sin in us? No, but we had free will, and we used that free will to sin, right? So there's something within us, God's image, that he loves, but we have contorted that image to be sinful. So he doesn't love the sin within us. In terms of how he tells his story through each one of us, he chooses how he does that. He chooses each how we are to come to him and to understand him, right? Personally, I find it comforting that it is not based on our own merit, right? Because it's like, well, what do I have to do for you to show favor to me? And God's like, you don't have to do anything. I've already shown you favor, And it's like, I've already chosen you. It's not about what you do. It's about the fact that I love you, And I think that when we look at the chosen people, this is not, it is us and it's not us, right? Like in the sense that if you look at Judah and his sin, let's think of Cain, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to Cain and Abel, Cain, no good sacrifice. God didn't, and then he killed Abel. God didn't like Cain, right? We are Cain with the potential of being Abel. And the fact that God is giving us this story and like speaking to us through his word is evidence of his love for us. He is revealing himself to us so that we would not be Cain, right? He shows us all these bad people like Lot and whoever, like these terrible folks, so that we might not be them. The fact that we hear his voice through his word, through nature, through friends, through the Holy Spirit, whatever that is the Lord speaking to us. So in this idea of like, well, what do we got to do to be favored by him? It's like, we already are favored by him. Look at how hard he's working to reach us. You know what I mean? And it's just, are we going to accept that voice of his and lean into it and believe it? Or are we going to go our own sinful way and say, well, I guess he doesn't favor me, when it's like, well, look at how he favors you. You know what I mean?
No.
That was like kind of a long rant.
Anyway, that's been another episode
no, wait,
of
it's an hour 30.
Father.
You cut it short every time.
It's been another episode.
No way.
Of Call Him Father.
It's an hour on the dot and you're just ending it?
Yeah. We'll find out next week.
Find out next week.
There's no way we pick up that. But
Yeah,
find out next week. But thank you for enjoying this episode of.
I can't believe you're actually.
This episode of.
I push back.
Call Him Father.
So lame. That's so lame. Listen, was it incoherent? Probably.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't coherent.
Oh, I was thinking it was incoherent, but
no, it wasn't incoherent. I just I think if we continue to talk about it, it will go way longer. And
105.
Okay, so like to say that, like, look at all the ways he's favorable to you. There are examples of that in my personal life, but then there are examples of it where there's just, it's hard to, from a human perspective, see how there is much favor in, like, you know, it's the very frequent argument of, you know, so many bad things exist in life to where it's just not a satisfactory answer to be like, look at the favor he's given you when you're like a kid who gets cancer and dies at like 12.
And that is going to be it for the episode.
Okay. Tune in next week.
No, I have an answer to that.
No, you said it.
No, I have an answer to that.
I did my one. You did your one.
There are effects of sin that the Lord came to save us from. I'll say that.
Okay.
It is not necessarily the Lord's doing, but it is part of the sinful world that he came to save us from.
Right. So if you get cancer and you're 12, that's your fucking fault.
No, it's not your fault. It's the fault of the world.
That's an awesome way to end it.